Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy, actually, Among Us here, and we've got, I guess you would say we got something new for you guys today. A different kind of video. I know I just gave y'all a little bit of a preview, but today we have a team building video featuring Regidrago. Now, before I get started into the, nitty gritty of this video, I want to say that for the purpose of teaching some team building, I wanted to mold this team to a certain format. And another inspiration for this video, truthfully, was the announcement of the Crown Tundra Masters Division tournament that Game Freak is having and Nintendo is having online on Pokemon Sword and Shield. So this is a online tournament that anybody with a Nintendo Online account can enter, but it's also a kind of specific format because you can only enter with Pokemon that you find in the Crown Tundra region. And if you want to be really technical, not even all of them. You can't get like some of the things you get in the layers and stuff like that. Some of the certain Pokemon that came back aren't allowed. But I'm not going to get too much into that. What I am going to get into before I really get into the strategies involved is the process that I go through in building a team. In this case, I know the format that I'm modeling for is limited selections of Pokemon. So I pulled up online the list of Pokemon, and I noted some pretty good mons that I wanted to make sure to watch out for. You have Glastrier and Spectrier. You have the Regis, which of course you have the Regis because I'm making this video about one of the Regis. You have Salamence, Dragonite, Garchomp, Dragapult's available in the format, Mimikyu, Noivern, Galvantula, Lucario, Weavile, both Nidoking and Queen, and one of the most dangerous ones, especially when we get into the composition of this particular team, is Metagross. So to get more on point though, before we get into the specific Pokemon, I was just naming some of the threats. Most of what I named isn't in this team. You also use the legendary birds, both Cantonian and Galerion form, and that kind of thing. Some of the other ones I'll get to in a second because they're in the team. But those were some of the, top threats to expect. That you could kind of say that's the meta game in a way. We don't really know because no games have been played, but in a strong way, that's the meta game. So to start off the team, we wanted to use Regidrago. And one of the reasons I wanted to use Regidrago, besides the fact that it's new, I thought it was an interesting design of a Pokemon, is because in this format, Scarfed Timid Regidrago, with the speed that I have on your screen right now, outspeeds everything in a format naturally. So it outspeeds the Timid Dragapult, which is the fastest thing, and it actually outspeeds up to base 151, I think. Pheromosa it also outspeeds, but Pheromosa as well as the other Ultra Beasts aren't available in this tournament. But if you're using this team maybe in other ranked battles, you keep that in mind as well, that it outspeeds any Pokemon besides Pokemon with a base speed higher than 151, which is not very many, or a Pokemon with a Choice Scarf faster than base speed of 80, of course, because that would be Regidrago. So another thing about Regidrago is I thought it was an excellent Choice Scarf user in this format because of its speed tier, and in general because of its limited move pool. It's probably going to be clicking the same move over and over again anyway. As you see the moveset, we've got two almost useless moves on the moveset. We've got Ancient Power, which if you're choiced into it, you probably don't want to lock into that. It's just there because it's like literally one of the only other coverage moves I could get. And Explosion is kind of the same thing. Maybe if you're in a bad spot and are just bringing it in as a sacrifice anyway, you could click that. But like, I had a really hard time even finding a move that I thought was potentially viable. So that's why we have Explosion, is because Regidrago's limited move set is definitely one of the most difficult tasks of using this Pokemon. So we just choice scarfed it, and we're just going to spam dragon attacks. Of course, to just cover it real quick, we have Dragon Energy, which the higher, the more HP the Pokemon has, the more damage it does. It can be extremely powerful if everything goes our way and we outspeed everything else on the field and can just spam it without getting hit and pick up kills without getting hit. But we have Dragon Pulse just in case that's not the case, if we take some damage or plan to. Obviously, this leaves us a huge weakness to Fairy. And so in building the team, Fairies and Dragons are two of the things that we really have to watch out for. As well as the potential of other Scarf users and things, the very few small list of things that could potentially outspeed, Pokemon that can set up and boost their speed as well. You have to keep in mind strategies like that. But, like I said, to try to keep it on point, to deal with that number one first and most obvious weakness, which is Fairy type Pokemon, the next Pokemon that we brought on the team is Nidoking. So this is our set for Nidoking. As far as the speed EVs, we have it at 220 and Timid. That's to outspeed base 80 Pokemon like Regidrago, but I was also more namely thinking like Dragonite. There's not really any fast Fairy type Pokemon, so speed with a base 85 we're gonna have covered. The Life Orb Sheer Force combo should really make it hard for even special defensive Fairy types like Clefable to deal with this. And obviously the only Fairy type in the format or available in this tournament that can outspeed Nidoking is Whimsicott, and it's not gonna want to stay in on a Sludge Wave. So we got 220. We got the exact speed to outspeed a base 80 Pokemon, so we could throw a little bit extra into HP because some of the defensive roles have to be shared between the next 3 Pokemon, Nidoking, and the next 2 that you're going to see. And, that's alright. It is what it is. Nidoking's good for that. It's got a reliable bulk stat, 81, 77, 75. It can switch in a little bit. It can take a hit. And then it can definitely dish it out better than it can take it. So we also, just to cover the moveset real quick before we move on, this is our Pokemon to deal with things like Fairy types. And it's definitely good against Steel types as well, with the Ice Beam as the best coverage move. There was also Flamethrower and Thunderbolt, but I didn't find that to be really necessary. Yeah, so we got Stealth Rocks just in case. I mean, it is a 3v3 format, so hazards may not be, especially Stealth Rocks, may not be the most instrumental to winning, but it's there just as something. Sludge Wave for Fairies. Scorching Sand is great against Steel-type Pokemon, especially Metagross, chance to burn. And Ice Beam for your Dragonites and stuff like that, which, as I said before, we have the exact speed to make sure that we always outspeed Jolly or max speed Dragonite. So, moving on, next we have Araquinid. And Araquinid is holding the Mystic Water kind of just out of default. Excuse me, I had tested both moves on this, and the liquidation was by far much better. So that's why I have the Mystic Water on there, because Water Bubble, Mystic Water, Liquidation, while it is a mouthful to say, is actually really, really painful for such a defensive Pokemon. So, with that being said, to get into the EV spread, there's nothing really special here. HP, max HP, max special defense, and Mirror Coat and Magic Coat to loan support, as well as Sticky Webs. If we happen to get Sticky Webs up, basically it should be free run for Regidrago, aside from any fairies that the opponent may have. If we can get rid of the fairies and set up webs, Regidrago should be able to sweep a lot of teams. And we also have some more help on the offensive side for it coming. But as I said, we had a 3-mon defensive core, and Nidoqueen, Araquinid, and the next Pokemon, which I'll just get straight to, it's Clefable, to kind of split the roles. You can't run the #1 Clefable set that I would have loved to run, which is Wish Teleport, because in order to get Teleport, you have to have a Kanto Clefable, and in order to use your Clefable in this tournament that I'm preparing the team for, all your Pokemon have to be born in Galar. So you can't use a TM for another game on the Pokemon because you can't back transfer it. However, we can still use Wish, and we will use Wish whenever possible. With our last Pokemon that we'll get into, there's a potential for an interesting interaction with a Salic Berry, which boosts your speed when you go under 25% health. So even though allowing your big bulky wall like Clefable to take a hit and then teleport out is usually the ideal strat, there are ways that you can spin it around and take advantage of basically what the metagame gives you. You know what I mean? So we got Clefable here with 220 plus defense. That's to make sure that we can not outspeed, sorry, it's not speed. To make sure that we can live a Meteor Mash from Adamant, Life Orb, Metagross. Like I said, that's definitely a Pokemon that we will be planning around. And yeah, this is basically going to cripple but not kill Clefable. It will always leave it at least a little bit alive. And so that's the reason for the 220 plus defensive EVs. We threw the rest in special defense because we already had max HP. As I said before, these last 3 Pokemon, they really have to split the load defensively. Clefairy should be able to soak up any fairy type hit that Nidoking can't. Obviously should be soaking up more than Nidoking. Araquinid can handle things like steel types, as well as sharing the load with Nidoking. And basically that's my thought process in the, you know, handling what threats my opponent may bring, because there's definitely a lot of them. You know, Clefable can soak up hits from the legendary birds. Clefable can soak up hits from any fairy type pretty much, and so it's also unaware, so it can deal with Pokemon that are boosted, although that does also leave you somewhat weak to status. So keep that in mind, or maybe you may want to run the other ability. You know, it's up to you. Moving on though, next we have Cryogonal. And Cryogonal is kind of a little bit of a pet Pokemon, but I'm glad to see it back because it's the perfect Pokemon to bring in this situation. Obviously, Regidrago's other major weakness, besides Fairy, is going to be Ice and Dragon. So, we'll bring an Ice type and deal with the other dragons with said Ice type. We're going to take advantage of Cryogonal's base 105 speed, which is faster than the 3 main dragons that I think will be coming a lot in people's teams this tournament, being Garchomp, Dragonite, and Salamence. Now, Garchomp is the fastest of the three. It has a base speed of 102. So we want to make sure that we always outspeed the Garchomp. And considering every Pokemon isn't in this tournament, that's really the fastest thing that we need to make sure we outspeed. Get a little bit off of the speed, throw it into HP. Maybe we'll live a hit somewhere down the line. But fair warning, especially on the physical side, this Pokemon is extremely frail. It cannot take a Mach Punch for anything. It cannot take a Bullet Punch for anything. So those type of things, you know, we've talked about how Metagross is a threat to this team. It can Bullet Punch. Lucario is also available in this format as a faster option for a Steel type. And we do have access to our own little bit of priority, but especially against a Steel type Pokemon, you basically have to have that thing down to 1 in order to pick up a kill with Ice Shard. However, we have the Rapid Spin for a little bit of control. You know, if it needs to come in and waste its Focus Sash just to get off the Rapid Spin, it can do that. It can Freeze Dry in order to not only deal with the 4 times weak dragons that I mentioned before, but also deal with bulky waters and other Pokemon that are weak to ice type attacks. And Flash Cannon, because you can never be too safe against them pesky fairies when your first win condition in your primary is Regidrago, and your second win condition, your secondary, is the Pokemon I'm about to mention next, and that is Galerion Zapdos. So as I said before, we have a little bit of a tech on this set. This is a base 100 Pokemon, so it's really high up there in the speed tiers in this format. We gave it a Salic Berry to get a +1 speed, possibly even have Webs out on the field to give us +1, our opponent -1, and Bulk Up to make us, maybe if we come out at full health, live the hit with 25 or less % left, trigger our berry, and really go to work. Honestly, if this thing gets to use its tech properly against an opponent and then Dynamaxes as well after that, this thing can be really threatening. That's why it has the Steel Wing on it, is hopefully you would use that in Dynamax form. Acrobatics and Close Combat are kind of both, but I think it's safe to say that they're both better in their Dynamax form, considering the boost that they give to Zapdos. But I felt like this thing covered really well a lot of the things that Regidrago didn't. You know, it's a physical threat as opposed to a special threat. It can deal with fairies pretty well with the Steel Wing, especially Clefable, which is an absolute no for this Pokemon. It can deal with the Metagrosses and the faster ice types. While it can't necessarily outright outspeed Weavile and Cryogonal, if I get either the Webs or the Salic Berry boost, I have the tech to potentially do that, as well as the Bulk Up to maybe, you know, outlast them. And also, I wanted to use this Pokemon not only because it's new, but because I have 2 types of hazards, and one of which, meaning the Sticky Webs, that could be extremely advantageous to my team. If I were to bring the Sticky Webs and get them up on my opponent, that puts my opponent in a position where they really have to get rid of them by some means. And so if they try to defog away my hazards, I could predict the defog, switch in my Zapdos, get +2 attack, possibly Bulk Up from there, possibly Dynamax from there. And if as well my Salic Berry were to trigger, I definitely see that being a very difficult Pokemon to deal with. You know, even priority moves like Ice Shard, they're only going to hit it for regular damage because of its typing. And basically, that's the team. I'll move this down just a bit so you can see the full 6. And like I said, that's them. So, as I explained, we're using this for the Crown Tundra official online tournament. I explained to you guys why I added each Pokemon, what they provide to the team as far as synergies and roles. We got our defensive core right here. They're splitting the load of the different threats that could come. The water type, it can resist the Glacier. The fairy type, it can resist the ghost. The poison type, it can resist the fairies, and the ground side of that can come back and attack the steels because it's faster than all of them besides Lucario. And we base the team around our win con, build defensive core to enable it to do what it does best, including some support, and then we cover our weaknesses, which would be definitely other dragons and ice types and fairy types, as well as having a reliable secondary option to kind of fill the gaps in our offense, which is we're just spamming special dragon moves. Let's throw in some type variants and some physical, some speed. We have Thunder Wave, Sticky Webs, and Salic Berry, all to be used for speed control. And the purpose is, of course, to set up one of those two Pokemon and just take advantage of a weakened team or a team that maybe didn't bring a fairy type and has some holes. So, gone a tad bit over, just a couple minutes over what I thought this video would be anyway. I'm going to cut this one off for here. If you like this video, definitely let me know by dropping a like. Make sure you leave a comment before you leave if you're watching this far. Just so I know what y'all think of these videos, and if y'all have any suggestions, maybe a different format, maybe a different Pokemon. Loved for this first team building video to bring a lot of feedback. So if y'all could do that for me, make sure to leave a comment below. I appreciate all y'all support and can't wait till next time. Peace.